Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Nikki Starr, and welcome to another day live. Today, I am here with my dear friend Daniela Gill, and we have been friends since 2018. And whenever we come together, there are always such beautiful lessons that we take away from the time sharing and reflecting. And today was no different. And I was like, hey, do you want to come live with me? And we were talking about different ways to keep our energy high. And one of the things that I shared was being really pristine with our language and what we're talking about. Because whenever we talk about something, it's like we invite their energy or that energy into our space. So we were talking about different situations in our life, and we noticed, like, oh no, I don't feel that good, and we did an energy clearing, and it really shifted the space, and it did inspire us to come on here. So welcome, Daniela.
Thank you.
So is there anything you want to start off by sharing?
Yeah, on what you were just sharing. I love spending time with you because I love how quickly you can really see, you and I both have the gift of multidimensional sight, and seeing how certain habits or ways of being impact us. And so a part of our conversation that I was really excited to share with all of you, because I found it so valuable for me, was the recognition of this tendency at times to want to bring up things from the past because it's like I need to process it. And maybe I want another set of eyes on it. For me personally, it's like I want perhaps some sort of validation around this challenge or this conflict. Yet noticing how sometimes the healing of it is in the letting go. It's in the releasing and giving myself permission to feel good and to embody my high frequency energy, regardless of what has happened.
Did you want to see something else? Okay. Yeah, and so I was going to add to that, so Daniela does Akashic record reading. So she also is very intuitive, like I am. And she's also really committed to her personal development, as I am. We know that we're here on this earth plane to grow, evolve, and learn from each other, and that the point of relationships are so that we can learn and grow. And exactly what Daniela said about bringing up the past is the past. We can't change it. So what I have found, in that moment of wanting to shift the energy, when we were kind of talking about past relationships and past situations that didn't feel so good, I was then like, what are you celebrating in your life? And then we had a moment to focus on the now and what we're grateful for in the now. So that is a huge, huge way in terms of one of the ways to keep our energy feeling good. It's like, don't go into the past, but focus on the details of the now and what is really you're inspired by, what you feel grateful for, what you're celebrating in yourself as well as other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was like the liberating my energy from a past dynamic that is not of my preference, that I want to let go of. And then I'm thinking I need to continue processing it. And instead, directing, focusing, feeding all my energy into what is possible, into what it is that I am calling in, into what I want to experience. And I feel like this is such a divine message for this time of so much importance because we have so much happening in the world that is not of our preference. And there's a lot of judgment of it, resistance to it, fear around it, angst and despair and hopelessness because of it. And how we relate to it is of utmost importance because we are these incredibly powerful creators who are creating through our thoughts, through our emotional fields, through all of our actions. And so much of it originates in what it is that we focus on, what it is that we believe. So when we bring all of our attention into what it is that we do prefer to experience and create in moments when it's empowering, because of course we don't want to bypass anything that is. But in the situation that we're talking about, it felt like I was like drudging up something that was already complete. It was already done. It had come to completion. And knowing that we have permission at any moment to bring all of our focus and intention to what it is that we are creating, what we're excited about, what makes us feel good.
Yeah. And I want to add to that too. Like, Daniela is speaking to that age old, timeless truth that what we focus on expands. So if we're manifesting in every moment based on our energy and how we feel and what we're talking about, if you go and focus on the past, especially if it's something that maybe you don't love or it's something that you want to let go of, if you keep talking about that, you're going to manifest more of that. Whereas if you choose to, like what Daniela said, focus on like, what am I celebrating? What am I creating? What am I wanting to create? What do I desire? Then, that brings in more of that. And then we start to bring that into our field, into our lives. And I like to think of our words being like these echoes or like these lighthouses that go like, so, spelling words is like a spell, right? So if everything was magic and we used our words to invite in what we want, this is why being so pristine with our language is of utmost importance if we want to be creating life on purpose and designing our life based on our desires, right? So not talking about what we don't want and rather talking about what we're calling in and what we're desiring. And that is also going to make us feel more expansive because then we open to the infinite possibilities versus if we're in the past, we can't even change that and our energy is going where we don't want it to go. And I think that it's so important that having friends that like can be like a support system in that, right? And even there was moments that, another topic where Daniela, I feel like one of her gifts is around compassion. So if I maybe shared a situation that happened, Daniela was really good to be like, oh yeah, but to the other person, it probably looked like X, Y, and Z. So instead of me making assumptions about like, even though it was a challenging experience for me, that for the other person, they thought they were doing a great job. So it's really nice when you can like weave back and forth and give different perspectives that help things be connected more to love, to joy, to what we're wanting to create, to compassion, to connection. And I think that aspect of compassion is also really important when we're wanting to keep our energy high. So we're not feeling like victims or like something happened to us, but rather seeing like, everyone's doing their best and they probably are seeing it completely differently than we are.
Yeah, I'm like continuously reminding myself that anytime I feel like contraction or just fear, when I move through these emotional states, it's often because I'm not integrating or embodying the various levels of perspective. We can always come into a higher perspective or what might be called another truth. And this other truth reveals to us the innocence inherent within every single human being. And it helps us restore trust. It reminds us of infinite possibility, that anything is possible. It anchors us into the present moment, and it opens our heart to love. It has us see things through the eyes of other people, which then immediately catalyzes forgiveness, catalyzes compassion. And at this time, we need to be embodying forgiveness and compassion and love in order to keep our frequency high. This divisiveness, this hostility, resentment, fear, mistrust, it is painful. And our frequency plummets. And we can cycle into righteousness, like, well, I need to feel this way because this person did this, because this is happening. Yet it is all a limiting belief that is actually enslaving us to these denser frequencies, these denser perspectives, the perpetuation of hostility on the planet, when we respond to it with our own feeding of more hostility.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to add about keeping our energy high is something and we talked about this too, is something I've noticed is when I'm by myself and let's say if there was no connection to the outside world, I feel so much love and joy, and Daniela feels the same, like innately, like love, joy, happiness, lightness is like our natural state of being. And I actually believe this for all people, like gratitude, joy, love, inspiration, all of this is gratitude is how we're meant to feel. And I think it's our true nature. And then when we come across another human or a situation and there's like a misunderstanding or a projection, like we think something is happening and maybe it's not really happening, we just believe that it's happening. Or we even take on someone's energy. So if someone else is not feeling well and then we take that on and then we might not feel good somewhere in our body. And learning how to clean your energy regularly. And there's so many techniques to do that, like even from swimming in the ocean or taking a shower or using sage. Like there's so many different ways. So if you are not practicing a form of energy hygiene or cleansing your energy on a regular basis, and I recommend doing it every day because we're in contact with people every day, that's something you're going to want to think about. And if not, at the least when you're not feeling well, if you're feeling a bit off or you're just not feeling the love and the joy that you know is your true nature.
So true. I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's in my personal life, my priority recently has become the caretaking of my energetic field, because there are so many energies flying around. There's so much happening emotionally, mentally within humanity. And if we're not consistently like maintaining our fields, our emotional body, our mental body, it can start to like seep in and it can really impact us and it can take us down. And I feel like many of us at this time don't have the awareness to really be checking in, like, how am I feeling? What am I thinking? What is occurring? And what do I need to clear and to let it go? It took me so long to even know what clear meant. Like, I don't think I ever felt clear until I started meditating when I was 18. And then, even then, I had little glimpses of it. But in clarity, we are anchored in love, in trust, in possibility, and all the beautiful things that I said earlier. That is our clarity. And when we are not in that, it's likely other things are like in our field. We're maybe perpetuating beliefs that aren't true, engaging in ways that aren't resonant with the truth and the knowing of our soul. And anytime you feel that, it's not like you're powerless to it. You have the opportunity to transmute it, to alchemize it, to clear it, to work it through in some way.
Yeah. And I also feel that support is so key. So whether you have a friendship or a healer or a coach or someone you work with, I feel like especially when there's moments that your energy is off and it's like you can't see a way out and you feel trapped or in victimhood or constricted or contracted, like when you get an outside perspective, you can like get out of like the box you put yourself in or the emotion that you feel trapped in. And for me, I think, not even I think, I know that has been so foundational in keeping my energy and my feelings. I like to just call it clean, clear, and under control because I feel sometimes we need help and others to help hold space for us. Because when we're in it and we can't really see a way out. But when there's like a piece of wisdom shared, or there's an energy technique shared, or energy healing done, or something, this like can literally like shift us out of the illusion that we thought like something was wrong or bad or something happened to us, whereas we can transmute it and process it and then integrate it so then we're wiser on the other side of it.
Yeah, we can attune to one another.
You are who you hang out with.
It's so true. And we have so many gifts for each other. And I feel like we are designed to live in deep connection with each other. We are these communal beings, and we've strayed really far from that. And I feel like it's caused a lot of pain. And I feel like this day and age it's time to like really open. It's an invitation to really open to the love that is here, the support, the way in which other people can help us keep our energy high through connection. It's so valuable, it's so healing. It immediately Human beings, in order to survive, they require community. We're not meant to live alone. So our nervous system, when we feel held and loved and embraced and close, it like it relaxes. And we all need that support during this time because there's so much going on that could easily, have our nervous system like, yet it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, and part of that is the discernment and the pristineness of like how you spend your time and energy. So there are billions of people in the world. If someone or something or a situation or a community or a group of people or anything does not feel in alignment, you don't need to stay and suffer in it. Like there's like you're a martyr or there's something you need to learn from this specific situation. If you're encountering same situations and circumstances with different people, then that could be a message for you that there's something that needs to be healed. But if you're noticing like, okay, when I spend time with this person, I feel really expansive and I feel like I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm evolving. But then when I spend time with this person, I'm noticing like, I don't feel that good. Like I feel badly about myself, or that is information. So be mindful of who you're choosing to spend time with, because how you feel is information. It's energy moving through your body and it's energy in motion. And that's what emotions are. So check your emotions when you're spending time with people, any kind of people or any kind of situation, and use that as information to guide you of like, okay, yes, I'm going there and that was a great experience, but I think it's not for me. I'm moving on.
So true. Our emotions are information. Yeah. So I have a question for you. Sometimes it feels like I need to move through like grief or like just feelings of despair, and I just need to like cry it out and express it and like get it through. How can we discern between like I just need to cry and like feel mopey today and like this is actually good for me? It's helping me honor an emotion that is just naturally coming up and it is a form of self-love, versus going into like just like drama and grief and like looping in emotional cycles.
So I think I have noticed that when you're truly processing emotions, it clears so fast. So for example, if you're like, I'm so angry, and you just keep going, it will transmute and you'll like literally start laughing. And I actually do this work with couples a lot, and then in real time, we have them process emotions, not speaking, but just like processing what they feel. And it's like, boom, immediate shifts. And when I've done this work too, it's like I go from one emotion to the next emotion and energy moves so quickly. So if you're noticing that you're carrying on for a long time, it could be that you're like looping it and compounding it and making it like worse and worse and worse because you keep telling each new person that you meet about this horrible thing that happened to you. So you're actually like making it grow because you're focusing on it. Versus if you just process it in the moment or at the first moment you get, because maybe you're in public and you can't really do it. But I have found that the moment you just allow yourself to sit in it, especially if you have a good cry or a good yell, usually it will transmute instantly. If it's connected to like a person or a relationship and you have a history, that could take time to process because it's literally like you're so used to having someone in your field that it's like immediately like this gaping hole. Yeah. So that's that feeling of missing someone because that person was like a drug for so long. Like you had oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin from cuddling and touching and being together. So in relationship, it takes time. Like that's why out of sight, out of mind helps more because you're not feeding it. But everyone's different. I have found the faster ways to move on in relationships is to have a period, even if you want to be friends eventually, to have a period where you don't speak, because it helps to dissolve energetic cords. It doesn't bring you back into the drama of it. You can process it and clear it in the way you need to without, like, especially if one person wants to be together and one person doesn't, this can be like a tug of war, and so definitely crying about it, processing, clearing it, seeing what we've learned, I think is also key for helping us move on, because it's essentially why we're in relationship, is to learn. So the moment I'm like, oh, I learned this and I learned this and I learned this, I'm so grateful. And that you're able to shift from feeling sad or anger or whatever and into gratitude, then like you're back to you. And I find that understanding what the lesson was brings me back to gratitude and brings me back to myself a lot faster. I don't know, is that helpful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of therapy. I'm a big fan of energy healing and coaching, because it's very much like giving you tools to work within yourself or helping you clear and move the energy. But therapy is like, let's talk about the problem over and over and over. And there's no real like healing in my experience, I have found, except maybe if for that portion of talking, you're geared at like, let me discover what the lesson was. But overall, like, that's like a coaching tip. Like, what did you learn from this experience? Not just like, tell me what happened and let's just talk about it and keep talking about it. Like, that's not going to help you clear anything. That's going to make the energy grow. Whatever you talk about, you expand in your field.
Yeah. So having discernment between when we are effectively processing, transmuting, alchemizing something versus when we're like hooked into something and like hooked into a drama, or like these cycles can be addictive. Like our bodies can literally become addicted to this like physiological response that we have to drama.
Yeah. Drama and gossip are like one category, whereas like intentional sacred healing time is another category. So if you go into a space knowing like, I wish to speak about this so I can process it, heal it, integrate it, you even just going with that intention, like you're going to heal whatever it is that you might not be feeling good about, because you already have that intention going in. Versus if you're just wanting to like share about it with everyone and have validation and have people be like, oh yeah, like I'm so sorry that happened, or that person's a jerk or whatever, like that's only going to feed the energy, and it doesn't support you in healing it. And then what ends up happening is you attract someone else similar, because you didn't take the time to actually process what happened.
Wow. Yeah. If we want to keep our energy high, it's like we have to really want it, because it requires letting go of things that we're accustomed to, that we may have an unconscious attachment to, that we may not even realize. It's like I've had to really look at my life and look at the places where I've been giving energy to either a relationship or a habit that doesn't actually make me feel good. Yet there's still a part of me that's like, no, but I don't want to let go of that. It's fascinating. In relationships, for me, it can manifest as like unconditional love and unconditional compassion. That's a lot of what I teach. And yet there's a way to hold unconditional love and compassion where it's actually empowering instead of enabling, and is still operating with fierce boundaries, which are a necessary part of this present day experience. There's like the truth of oneness, we're all one, and there's the truth of divine love and perfection inherent within all. And then there's like the lived reality of where humanity is at, which is also the paradoxical truth of our separation, and of there being light and dark, and of there being forces and relationships and emotions that really do and can take us down. And we feel it because, as you said, emotion is information. It lets us know.
Yeah, and just speaking to boundaries, that's like the last thing I want to talk about in terms of keeping our energy feeling good. When we do not have good boundaries, this is us being open to energies that make us not feel good. So if you clearly have like, this is my space, these are my needs, this is my standard, this is what I prefer, you're entitled to that. And the moment that gets crossed, that's usually when you don't feel good. You might get that pit in your stomach. And sometimes people cross boundaries and they don't even know what they're doing. Like they're just like, oh, I'm just doing what I'm doing. And they cross your boundary. And that can hurt. And it takes practice to hold them and speak when they've been crossed. But the more we can be strong with them, then the less we encounter uncomfortable situations that we'll need to process. Because oftentimes when we feel like we need to process something or we don't feel good, a lot of times it's connected to our boundary being crossed in some way, or our values being crossed in some way or something. And this creates a discord that then is not that like union and harmony we normally feel. So oftentimes boundaries are only tested when they're not strong. But when they're strong, it's like there's not even a question. It's like there's a wall. I'm not going to walk through the wall. It's like similar on the energetic fields.
That is so good. There's a wall. I'm not going to walk through the wall. But if there's like some flimsy little thing, it's like, I can get around that.
Exactly.
And that's so true. It's when our boundaries are violated or crossed, that can have us not feel good. That is what has us not feel good. And for me, it's like, I don't necessarily experience a ton of what feels like boundary violations in relationship, but I think for me, it's just energetic. Like on the subtle realms of like mental and emotions, like being in like my love and bliss, and then going out to even the grocery store. That's it, like grocery shopping, and then getting back in the car and being like, oh my God, I don't feel good. Like,
yeah, because someone else's energy came into your space, or some kind of energy that was in the store, and that crossed into your boundary. So the stronger we keep our energy field and our boundaries, the better we'll feel, because things can't cross into our space. It's like, imagine you're the sun. Like if we walked into the sun, like we would get burnt, right? So it's like, be so strong with your energy that like, that is what is certain and clear, and nothing can even cross or trespass into your space. Not an energy, not a physical person, etc. Like I've had experiences where when I worked on my boundaries, I've had people feel like, who maybe went in for a hug or a cuddle, I could see like clearly they like stopped because energetically they felt the boundary, even though you can't see it. So I've had that experience before, and people feel like, oh yeah, I feel your boundaries more. And I was like, yeah, I'm working on them.
Yeah, I remember when I first started my practice, people were constantly questioning my prices. Yeah. And once I set a boundary around that, no one has ever questioned them. No one has even ever made, a statement of like, oh, that's expensive or anything like that. Meanwhile, at the beginning, my price was like, what, 1/4 as much? And would get comments on it and people requesting discounts, and people feel it. It changes the world around us.
Exactly.
So
it's connected to relationships. It's connected to our finances. It's connected to work. Like boundaries are connected to everything. And in truth, it's like the thing that's holding our energy. So for our energy to feel good, it needs to be held with a nice, strong container. Yeah. Beautiful.
So good.
Well, this is so fun today, Daniela. Thank you. I want to be doing this more, where I bring my guests and my friends who are over, and like, why not just like talk about the things we're talking about and share it with the world? And that was the intention today. So I hope that you really enjoyed this. Definitely share any comments or questions you might have in the comment section below, and we'll be glad to respond to them. We send you love. We wish you a beautiful day. I'm Dr. Nikki Starr.
And I'm Daniela Gill.
And yeah, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say, we love you so much. Like, yeah, so much love for humanity and everything that we're undergoing right now. And know that it doesn't have to be the way that it has been.
We're creating new paradigms and new realities, and it begins with our choice and how we show up in the world.
Yeah, it begins with us. And regardless of what's happening in the world, we still have sovereign creatorship over our own lives, our own emotions, our own mind, our own experience, and truly anything is possible for us.
Yeah, and as you know, with my brand, I'm all about like, let's live our ultimate life. We are here to do that. Absolutely.
Thank you, love.
All right. Well, we love you guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.